Former US President Barack Obama will take the stage on day 2 of the Democratic National Convention to boost his longtime ally Kamala Harris in her presidential bid against Donald Trump.
Obama will be preceded by his wife Michelle Obama, who tops Democrats' wish list as a future president. The list of speakers on day 2 of the convention includes Senator Bernie Sanders, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Harris's husband Douglas Emhoff.
Obama's DNC address will come full circle for the former US president. He returns to the convention dais 20 years after his first appearance in 2004. Then Illinois Senator Barack Obama delivered a keynote address at the convention in Boston. 4 years later, he went on to become America's first black president.
Obama's backing for Harris comes at a critical juncture as Democrat supporters look to make history again, with the country getting its first woman and first black and South Asian president.
Former Trump White House press secretary Stephanie Grisham made an appearance at the convention. She told the crowd she used to be a true believer who spent holidays with the Trump family, but now she's backing Harris.
I saw him when the cameras were off. Behind closed doors, Trump mocks his supporters. He calls them basement dwellers.
Grandsons of former presidents Jimmy Carter and John F. Kennedy cast Vice President Harris in the same image as their famous family members.
And navigated the Cuban Missile Crisis. For my grandfather, it was never about fame, recognition, accolades, or awards. His legacy is measured by the lives he has touched and the good he has done. Kamala Harris carries my grandfather's legacy. She knows what is right, and she fights for it.
Asked to a new generation, to a leader who shares my grandfather's energy, vision, and optimism for our future. That leader is Vice President Kamala Harris.
Harris's election effort has raised around $500 million, a Reuters report said, quoting sources. The U.S. Vice President entered the fray after President Joe Biden stepped aside from the top of the Democratic ticket, unleashing floods of funding that had dried up in the weeks after Biden's disastrous debate against Trump.
Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump attacked Kamala Harris' record on crime and safety in a rally in Michigan. Trump, however, faced criticism for holding the event in a town where white supremacists had held a rally just a month ago. His running mate, J.D. Vance, made a stop in Kenosha, Wisconsin to laud Donald Trump's law enforcement policies. Vance also said Democratic leadership was responsible for violent crime in cities like Chicago, currently hosting the Democratic National Convention.
And my little theory about why they decided to have the convention in Chicago is, Tim Walz has been going around saying that he served in war, and maybe they did it in Chicago so that he could actually accurately say that he visited a combat zone.
Meanwhile, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is considering ending his campaign to join forces with Republican rival Donald Trump. Kennedy's running mate has said, Nicole Shanahan said that as independents, she and Kennedy ran the risk of drawing support from would-be Trump voters and clearing the way for Democrats Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to win the November election. And for more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Susan Tehrani. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, give us the latest from the Democratic National Convention. It's day 2. All eyes are now on the Obamas. What can we expect?
They really are on the Obamas, aren't they? Despite the fact that there were numerous other speakers, as you mentioned, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, and we're expected to hear from Doug Emhoff, who is Kamala Harris's husband as well. But the Obamas are known to give very inspiring speeches. Michelle Obama has spoken in the last 4 Democratic conventions, and her speeches are notably memorable. Former President Barack Obama is expected to talk about Kamala Harris's qualifications and touch on the day's theme. Each day, of course, has a theme. Today's was a bold vision for America's future. We're also being told that they have arrived at the convention and that they're going over each other's notes and giving each other suggestions and sort of working on what each individual is expected to say. Of course, those speeches are already prepared, but just some finishing touches regarding that.
Susan, now Obama's former campaign manager and alumni from Obama's 2008 and 2012 election efforts, they are part of Harris' campaign as of now. Is there an Obama imprint on Kamala Harris' campaign for the presidential bid?
Yeah, I would definitely even go further than that and say that Barack Obama is definitely one of the leaders of the Democratic Party. He continues to be calling the shots behind the scene. As you mentioned, it's not just the campaign people, but a lot of other advisors that were for President Barack Obama are now in the Harris camp. They're advising her and giving her strategies to move forward. It's really known that it's Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and possibly Chuck Schumer as well, who were the ones behind the push to get President Biden out of the race because of his old age and bad poll numbers and insert Harris, despite the fact that President Biden said that he did it voluntarily. But, you know, you can't just not take that into consideration that Obama really has a lot of say in the direction that the Democrat Party is moving towards as well.
Right. In fact, Susan, it's interesting that you say that he is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, because I was just going to come to this next. It's been about 8 years since Obama was president. He still is a very influential figure in the Democratic camp. So what kind of an impact does he have on the Democratic camp, and can he really energize voters to unite behind Harris and Walz?
In what capacity does he influence everyone?
Right.
You know, what is his position in the Democratic camp? Because clearly he is an influential voice. That's what we were discussing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what happens during these campaigns, as you guys well know, we've covered the previous ones as well. A lot of it is public perception, and at least among the Democrats, I wouldn't say independent voters, but among the Democratic Party, Barack Obama continues to be that rock star of a former president. It's his mannerism, the way he talks, the way he connects with the audience, and his delivery has always been praised, and it's also always been noteworthy. And then you have him being the husband of Michelle Obama, who's just a very popular figure in the Democratic Party. She's known to be not only favored among Democrats in general, but women as well. And she's known, again, to give very memorable speeches. And then when you look at the policies of the Democratic Party in general, you know, Obamacare, healthcare, and others, it was after Barack Obama that a lot of the Democratic policies started to be very progressive. And we see the Democrat Party right now moving in that direction, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez getting prime time last night, with Bernie Sanders getting prime time tonight. You know, these are all issues, and they're significant.
Thanks, Susan, for getting us all your thoughts and getting us the details on, Obama's stance in the Democratic camp. Of course, everyone's waiting for his address on day 2 of the DNC. But stay with us, Susan. We'll be back with you for more updates on Anthony Blinken's return from West Asia. We'll be back with you in a bit.